everyone. Thank you very much for this being patient. Our next speaker is Mr. Taiob Ali. So he is Microsoft MVP from Bangladesh, and he's an accomplished technical leader with a proven success record in having a during 14 years experience in Microsoft and data platform and MongoDB. Currently he is working on GMO LCC as a data solution manager, and mostly focused on migration, automation, and improving projects. And he is also organizer for Dhaka community meetups, and he has spoken in a lot of conferences and yeah, tech conferences. So over to you, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm actually joining from East Coast. I was born and raised in Bangladesh, and then I've been living in East Coast in USA for about 17 years right now. But Singapore is is an exceptional place for me, because when I was 19, that was the first country I visited outside Bangladesh. I was there many times, because before I came to work into data platform, I actually used to drive ships in merchant marine. So as you know, Singapore is a big hub for merchant fleet. So I used to stop there a lot. So I was there even like 3 years ago to see some of my friends from old days. So it's nice. And thank you so much to the organizers, for this opportunity. I'm also very much connected with the Dhaka group with Hassan and Mehdi, who is also a speaker today. So it's nice, that I can also, participate with you folks from this far. And those of you joined, listening to me also, thank you, because, it's not easy on a Saturday to give up your time and, listening to someone that speaks highly about you. If you are participating and listening to these talks, that means, you are trying to advance your career. So I appreciate that. So what we'll be talking about? We'll be talking about business continuity during the disaster, and totally focused on Azure SQL Database. Because it's a vast subject. There's many options, so the time doesn't allow us to talk about other resources. Even within the Azure SQL now, there is managed instance, there is hyperscale, and I'm not going to talk about those today. There's Azure SQL you can run on Azure VM. So there's SQL you can run on Azure VM. So I'll totally focus on Azure SQL. So let's move on. I'm not going to read my slide, what's on the right side. If you want to take a note on the left side about my contacts, and if you want to reach out to me after this talk for anything related to what I'm talking about, or in general anything about data platform, please reach out. I monitor all these four, and I'll make sure that I give you an answer back within within 2 days. And if you're a local leader, I know there's many local leaders from other countries, from Sri Lanka, Philippines, and Nepal. If you folks looking for a speaker, I have a couple of talks. If it's useful to your groups, then only let me know. Otherwise, I don't want to just speak for the sake of speaking. So this is a real event that actually happened in 2019 in one of the Azure region in the UK South. And if you see this slide, there was 16-hour, 11-minute outage. And so the question you need to ask, as you're moving to cloud, putting your resources there, things are going to go wrong. Things are going to happen. Do not assume that, as you are moving to cloud, yes, Microsoft has redundancy. Yes, they have, they replicate your stuff in many other places. Still, things will happen. So you need to prepare for that. And one thing I always try to, emphasize, and I also try to practice, when people come to me, as a database solutions manager, or just leading the team, ask me about what kind of solutions we should put for disaster. I actually don't want to give them a solution directly, right? I till this day, I feel like that's not our job. We should not be stepping into that place. What our job is to give them the options, tell them the pros and cons, educate them about RTO, RPO, ERT. We'll talk about some of this and the cost involved with this, right? The less the time for RPO, RTO, you need to spend more money. And so if you are the person, from the business side, whoever is the person making the choice, who can sign the check, he or she needs to tell us, okay, you gave me 4 solutions. Can we do 2 of this, or can we do this? Can we not do this? So my goal is to talk about those options. And whatever time permits, we'll do some demo. If we do not get to the end due to time constraint, this slide deck and all the code that I'm going to show you is I just refreshed my repo just about 3 hours ago. So it's all in my GitHub repo. If you search for SQL Worldwide, if you go to GitHub, you'll see my repo, and you can download, use it, share it, do whatever you need to. You do not need any permission or anything. So these are 2 common terms. If you have been working in technology for a while, you should know this too. If you do not know, if you're new to this, also you should look it up. So, RTO, RPO, one is saying how far, from what point I can recover my data in case of a disaster. Other one is talking about how much time I need to be fully functional. Now there's a new term that's floating around, especially after inception of cloud, estimated recovery time. And this is nothing but is the max of ERT is the same as RTO, because your recovery time will vary, based on the incidents, right? But you want to know, what's your max that you can sustain based on your business. There have been, some research has been done, especially with all this, the cyber attacks goes on nowadays with the ransomware and all that. It says if you cannot recover 100% within 5 days, there is huge chance, and I forget about the exact percentage, you will be out of the business at some point. So this is a diagram just to conceptually to see that what I'm talking about, what is RPO, RTO. I'm not going to read this slide, but I color coded this. So when you download, it's easier for you to understand. So that blue line is RPO, and the other 2 is a combination of RTO. And if you read blog posts, be careful what you read, because people might have different views. So try to really get this in your head. What does this mean? And is your business counterpart in agreement with that? And the solutions that you are putting in, are those going to be abide by this time that you are agreeing with the business owners? Before we talk about Azure SQL Database, I'm going to show you a couple of features and different options for to recover, and to understand those. When I'm going to use those terms, you might get lost if you're not used to. So I put this slide, it's kind of a hierarchy, but I put it sideways for a reason, just to easier to understand. So on the left side, you see DTU and vCore, and I'll talk about this a little bit if you're new to this. This is a purchase model. The next column, the basic, standard, premier, general purpose, those are service tier. And then you have your compute tier. So on vCore, for DTU, there is nothing else. You select your DTU, you go to basic, standard, premium, and I'm not going to go into details of those in the interest of time. But if you choose vCore, then you go to service tier. There is 3. Then you go to your compute tier, because you can have provision, means you have fixed amount of CPU and memory always assigned to you, or you can go to serverless, that on the fly based on your workload, you will grab more CPU and more memory. And then at that 4th tier, what is called is a hardware type. So you have options for different hardware type that you can choose. So some of the features that I'll talk about, when I say no, this is not available on this is not available on that. If you get lost, come back to this slide. And at the end, I have a resource slide where I have more details that you can go and read about. So I talked about like DTU and vCore, and Microsoft really highly recommend you should go to vCore. But initially, when Azure SQL Database was launched, it was launched with DTU model. So the DTU model is a, as you can see, from the diagram, but I'm not going to read those. Uh, but basically, it's a abstract of your compute, storage, and I/O together. It's called database transaction unit. But when you go to vCore, you can clearly see, how many CPUs you are assigning, what kind of storage you are getting, and and I/O. And also there is a ratio. You cannot really choose memory directly still, like as you can do it on-prem servers. When you rack your servers, you can see, I want this much of RAM. You still cannot do that, but Microsoft has clear documentation that how much RAM you get for how the number of CPUs that you assign to Azure SQL Database. So these are some of the options that we have in case of a disaster recovery, and I'm not going to talk about every one of those, but temporal table. If you're working with SQL Server, it came out in SQL Server 2016 on-prem. At the same time, it came also in cloud. So it basically enables you to restore raw versions from any point in time, based on your retention. And I'm not going to talk about this because this is a similar concept as an on-prem, and really not a disaster recovery solution, but you can take advantage. So I just want to mention, to some extent you can take advantage. Automated backup we'll talk about a little bit. Built-in HADR. So once you spin up a Azure SQL database, without doing anything, you automatically get some kind of redundancy. And I'll talk about those based on the tiers. And then zone redundancy. So with some of the tiers, so like I really don't know exact zone name in Singapore, so pardon me, or their area. Like in East Coast, we have East US2 and East US. So within East US2 is a bigger region for Azure because there's a lot of business on the East Coast. They have multiple data center. So within the zone, if you want to get your data center redundancy, what you can do, you can turn this on for certain tier without paying any extra money. So what Microsoft will make sure that your cooling and your power and your hardware, they are separated into different data center. So in that case, if within a bigger zone, if a data center goes down, you still you will be running without any interruption. Active geo replication, I can say similar to on premise. If you have two different data center, let's say like one in Singapore, one in Philippines, and you are doing always an availability group, probably asynchronous replication, or even like in case of log shipping, similar concept in active geo replication. And auto failover group came out after active geo replication. It's built on active geo replication, but if you just implement active geo replication, you can only fail over per database. But if you have a set of database that supports a single application, you can group those. Like if you are using this on premise, always an availability group, it's exactly same feature as we call availability groups. So I'm not going to talk about temporal table anymore, but we'll touch other ones. This is a exact copy paste from the URL that you see at the bottom of this slide. This is something you want to know, because when you are negotiating with the business owners, and when I say negotiate means you're discussing and giving them options, this is, you want to tell them, hey, if you choose this, like if you just rely on backup, understand that you can lose 1 hour of data. Is that okay for you? Can you sustain it? Can you recover it? Because there are applications, right? Some of you, earlier you saw, like, we're showing, some of those, like machine learning and stuff. So like, if you're just buying data from a third party sitting in a flat file, and if you're processing those and then staging those, even if you lose an hour, you can probably reprocess and get it back, as long as your flat files are available, right? So if you have that kind of stuff, yes, say I can sustain it, so I'm not just going to set up backup and I'm not going to do anything else. You cannot do that. Okay, then you have other options. You show this, talk about these time frames, and then negotiate with them, come up with a solution, right? Whatever you want. So, give you an example what I was talking about before. You set up active geo replication. Now you have same hardware in two different zones, right? You're paying twice for your compute, for its storage and everything, right? So that you have to pay more money, but you can bring your RPO, RTO down. So let's talk about automated backup. Um, I put this as a caution that you lose control of precise RPO. And the reason I say that uh, on-prem, when you schedule a backup, right, I can schedule it up to a second. I can say at this hour, minute, second, I want a transaction log backup. In cloud, you really cannot do that. You do not have a control. Microsoft has a range of time um, that, uh, how within what time frame is going to take a backup, but um, it's not that precise like on-prem. So, and you know, if you go to the documentation, it clearly says that generally, right, transaction log backups are generally created every 5 to 10 minutes. So that's why I said, you lose the precise control. So just keep that in your mind. Uh, Full backup, weekly differential every 12 to 24 hours, transaction log 5 to 10 minutes. Again, I want to make sure that it's not precise time. Next one is called point in time backup. And you do not have to do anything. These are automatically, as soon as you deploy based on your tier, it will automatically start. Point in time backups, by default, you get 7 days. You can scale up to 35 days. You have to pay a little bit more, except for basic tier. So on a basic, you cannot go more than 7 days. With any other tier, you can go up to 35 days. Long-term retention. So now some people might say 35 days, like I work for a financial industry, 35 days is not going to cut it. If the Security Exchange Commission come for an audit, they want to see some old stuff, we need to have it. I used to work for a dialysis company, huge in USA for 4 years. We cannot just say that, we only have 35 days of backup. So Azure, you can keep it for up to 10 years, but then your granularity changes. And what I mean by that, sorry, one point before I go there, your backups are automatically get copied to another geographically redundant area. So it will go to a different zone, automatically get copied behind the scene. You don't have to do anything. So when I say long-term retention backup, right? So it's either weekly, monthly, or yearly. So on the first one, as you see, if I set it up for week of year is 3 and y equals 5 means for 5 year, what I'm saying is keep the third full backup of each week for 5 year, right? For each third week, the third week's backup, keep it for 5 year. So I put some more examples to, to see, the different ways you can do it. So take an example of the last one. Here I'm saying keep all weekly backups for 6 weeks. If it's the 16th week, keep it for 10 years. Every monthly backup, keep it for a year. So you can have all kind of, setup that you want. So the question is, okay, we take the backups, what do we do with those? We can restore as a new database on the same logical server, but you definitely have to have a separate name, right? It's similar as on-prem. You cannot have two databases with the same name. And I can have that server in a different region, and I can, restore there. You can do it on the same server from the server that you took the backup, right? Just with a different name. And as I said, you can do it in any region to recover. One thing, you cannot override existing database. Makes sense because it's the same name. If you delete the logical SQL server, because in cloud, the server itself is just a logical concept, just to as a container, not the container that my previous speaker was showing. I'm just talking about like as a logical way. You cannot, if you delete the SQL server, you cannot recover a database. But if your logical server exists and you delete a database, you can recover it. Just keep that in mind. This is a slide I'm not going to go spend time, but a lot of time I get asked this question, can we restore these backups to on-premise? So there are some ways you can do it, not directly, but So just look it up. There are a few ways that I listed here. Most of this, if you search, there are extensive documentation or other people blogged about it, wrote about it. So now what do you get? I said, you get built-in HADR solutions. So what do you get? What do I mean by that? So if you look at a picture, this is if you're in a basic, standard, or general purpose. Um, if you look at the picture on the right side, so what happens is you automatically get one of your VM. This is the one live working, and then you have a bunch of those there standby here on the right, as you can see. And you get connected with the storage at the bottom, and your backups are there, and your data and log file are on a local storage. I mean, not attached. And you get your attached SSD has your 10 DB. And so if this VM goes down, they will automatically find wherever there's additional capacity, spin up another VM with SQL Server, and then attach your locally redundant storage, right? That's how they'll bring you up quickly. And this is within the same region though. And you do not have to do anything for this. And this is a similar concept. If any of you used a failover cluster instance on premise, pretty much similar, right? You have 2, 3, 4 nodes, but you have one copy of the storage. And if you fail over, it get detached and get attached to the other host. If you're into premium or business critical, this is pretty much works similar as always an availability group on-prem, right? So your storage also get copied. Every VM has its own data and log files, and of course 10 DB. So you get 4 replicas, and you also get a scale out for read only without paying any extra money. So on your connection string, if you say this is for read only, your application intent, it will automatically send it to one of those 4. It always makes sure before the acknowledgement goes back to the caller that one of the secondaries are in sync. That is guaranteed. I talked about zone redundancy. So this is kind of a picture that within a region, I can have zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. It's again independent power, cooling network for each one. How do they do this? Again, a picture here. For general purpose, this is still in public preview. It's not GA, and you have to pay for it. If you go to the portal and try to turn it on, it will give you a warning, and it has a URL. It will take you to the page. You can check how much money this is going to cost you. And I have a note also here, it's only available with the Gen 5 compute hardware. But if you're into premium and business critical, you do not need to pay anything. But again, it's not turned on by default. So just keep that in mind. It's not turned on by default. There is a reason. If you turn it on, that you want this zone redundancy, probably your nodes are going to be a little bit apart, right? Because they cannot be in the same data center. Now, they are kept in sync with synchronous replication. So what does that mean? If they, say like I was talking about East US2 is a big zone, have a lot of data center. Now they're geographically a little bit apart, and I really don't know how many miles is the max. Now, if all these nodes, all 4 has to be synchronously replicated, if you make a call and before you get the acknowledgement, all these replicas has to be in sync. They're within the zone, right? So now you might get a delay to get your acknowledgement back. That's why Microsoft doesn't turn this on by default. you have to turn it on. There is no extra cost if you're in premium and business critical. Is there any question at this point? I don't know if chat is on or off. I'm really not sure. When I checked last time, it was off. So, I've been talking about for about 20 minutes. So I just want to make sure people do not have any question or any comment.
Yeah, as of now, there's no. But yeah, hey guys, if you have anything, so please use the raise hand feature so we can unmute you. You can ask yours. Yeah.
Thank you, Asif. So I'm going to continue. Before we go to demo, I can check one more time. So active geo application. Again, it's a similar code base as it's probably same code base as always an availability group, same technology. But here the replication is asynchronous. You can have up to 4 secondaries, and also you can use the secondaries for read-only traffic. If for any reason you want to make sure that your transaction get hardened in the secondary before the caller get the acknowledgement, right? There is a way to do that. So sorry, before I go there, I have a note here, as you can see at the bottom on the right side. It's available in all service tier other than hyperscale. I try to make it clear in every slide, so you don't have to go and read the documentation for everything. You can use this SP word for database copy sync. What this will do, it will make sure that your transaction got replicated to the secondary, but it doesn't, it doesn't wait for the replay. So at least it get copies, and eventually it will get replayed. So that way you are guaranteed that your transaction will make it to to the secondaries. Now, as I said before, what happened is when Microsoft came out with this, this was single database, right? So if you have to fail over bunch of database that supports one application, you really do not have a time frame that I can say, okay, I failed over, up to this point, right? Because now you're doing it every database separate. And that was a problem. Because even if you move to cloud, I can have a bunch of, 3-4 databases that's supporting a single application. So then they came, deployed this feature, auto failover groups. And again, so it's available in all service tier, again, other than hyperscale. I just want to make that clear again. Again, here you can use the secondaries for read-only traffic. Actually, you automatically get 2 URL, 2 connection strings, and I'll show those, one for read-write and one for read-only. And if you fail over, fail back, you do not have to do anything on your application side. It will automatically route it to the correct place. So you get something like this: failover group name .database.windows.net, and you get another one for read-only listener endpoint. Now, I want to just highlight one thing. The failover for the read-only listener is actually disabled. So just so you know, because now our goal is to fail over the read-write to the read-only, but most likely it will fail over because there's some problem with the existing read-write. So it doesn't make sense to fail over the read-only to the read-write, right? Because otherwise it wouldn't fail over at the first place. So I just want to highlight that point. This is, again, I'm not going to read about this. It's pretty much, just a summary that, what you can do with just your application, and what you get when you turn over auto failover groups. So you need to decide, right? Also, you need to talk to the, your lead developers, your architects, make sure they understand, that what they have to do on their side to make this as seamless as possible. This is, again, copied from books online. If you need to check what's the status of my application, right? How far behind I am, where I am, how much is the lag, you can use this. So it's good that, okay, so I'm at 24 minute. So I'm at a demo place right now. I'm going to go to demo. Before I go there, I just want to um, talk about feedback. I know I still have slides to do, sorry, demos to do. But if you want to take a note of that, that bit.ly, or take a picture, in case if you have to leave early or anything, because I think this is important for me, also important for the organizers, right? As they said, they're doing this, coordinating with multiple countries, group leaders, different interests. I'm sure they want to see, how you guys are taking it, what they can do next time to do this better. So I'm going to skip my slide for a minute, and go to demo. So I'm just going to do a little bit of setting here. Uh, Let me know if you lose my screen or if you don't see it. So I'm showing my Azure Data Studio. I think you can see it. Yeah, I can see my deadline. So those of you who are not familiar with Azure Data Studio, this is a multi-platform tool. Microsoft is heavily promoting this, and actually, if you didn't know, if you uh, got the latest version of Management Studio, which is 18.7.1, I believe, you actually automatically got Azure Data Studio installed in your machine. Just so you know. And I'm using a notebook. If you don't know what the notebook is, don't get hung up thinking about that. It's just a place where I can write comments. I can use some markup language, and I can also have my code, and I can have different kernel, right? So I can have PowerShells, Python, T-SQL, KQL, and different kind of kernel. That way, once you download this from my GitHub, you have everything in one place. And also what I did before all of you came online, I ran some of this to set up because it takes time. So I'm just going to get the variables again. I ran all this. I have enough comment. You should be able to run this as, if you have an account or open a free account. And I'm going to start here. So the demo starts here, but you might be wondering that what I did with that code, right? So I'm just going to show you. These are some of the resources uh, that I created. Pretty much 3 different SQL Server. One is our primary, one is our secondary, and I also want to show you the Redis scale. And for that, I need a different tier. And there are a couple of databases that I put in here. That's all I created so far. And these are, from a demo database, AdventureWorks LT, and the content doesn't matter. If you are new to Azure, probably know, because I saw, most of the talks assume that you are already, very much into Azure. I always suggest you create a resource group. You do this like at the end of this session. I'll just go and delete the resource group. That way I don't have to worry about deleting every resource individually, right? So let's talk about backup. So I said, you automatically get some, a point in time backup, right? So if you go here, primary server, we go to manage backup, and you can do all this with PowerShell, and I have the code I'll show you. As you can see that it automatically set up point in time backup for 7 days, right? And now I can go here, I can say configure retention, and I can go up to 35 days, right? And as you can see, there's no long term right now. These are all empty. So what we can do, and I can do it from the GUI, and you can do it too, but I'm going to just do most of this stuff with the PowerShell. So this is, to check what kind of long-term retention I have set up for a single database. As you can see, everything is 0, so there's nothing. Now I'm going to set this up. I'm not going to read these comments in the interest of time, but this is a PowerShell code. I'm doing it, weekly, 12 weeks, 16th backup, 16th weeks backup, keep it for 5 years, no monthly retention. And as if you see anyone raising their hand during demo, please please stop me. I want to make sure I know time is essence, but again I don't want to rush it.
Sure, sure.
Because I'm going to share everything so people can practice all this by themselves. I'd rather answer questions if someone has anything, right?
Yeah, sure. So actually, I have one question here.
Oh, sure, go ahead. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like it's showing from the portal, it's 35 days. So if we have to configure manually, so we can do by PowerShell, right?
Yes, all of these are through PowerShell. Like you see that we didn't have long-term retention before. Just before when I was here, now it's here, right? Because I ran this code.
Okay.
So I'm sure there is a command. I don't memorize commands. I'm sure there is one set Azure SQL Database point in time backup policy or something.
Okay, sure. Thanks.
And in my setup at the top, all the commands that I'll be using is actually from this module.
Okay, is that module? Okay.
Yeah, I already loaded it, but I put it there and I put it as a comment. If you have not already, right? So I have it, so I did not run it. So all the commands are from that one module.
Sure. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Taiob, this Aro here. I just want to
Yes.
understand that after the session, can you just share your GitHub link so that we can view it later on?
Oh, I can view it right now. Like I said, I know, I don't want to go out of a script, but again, whatever the users need, right? Because all my demo code, you can run it by yourself. So this is, if you go to GitHub, search for SQL Worldwide Presentations. As you see, I just refreshed it 2 hours ago. And this is the slide deck, and I'm using 2 notebooks. That's it. And notebooks have pretty much every section is commented. I'm talking about what I'm doing, and then I have the code.
Sure. That is very beneficial for us and also for the attendees. Thank you.
Yeah. And you see here is my subscription ID. But when you download from GitHub, it will not have this ID. It will say, put your subscription ID. So I didn't upload it as is. I want to make sure that, so people don't get confused by mistake. They keep running it and get an error message. So I changed this before, I have a separate file for GitHub. So.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
You're welcome. So we set this up, and if you want to see it, I went to the GUI to see the long-term retention, but someone might say, I'm not a GUI person. I just want to see it from PowerShell. This is a command that will tell you what kind of long-term retention you have. If you want to remove it, I'm not going to run it right now just to save time, but if you want to remove it, this is the code that you can use. Now, I talked about that built-in HADR, right? And I showed you that in the portal, I did not do anything, right? I did not set up anything as of now. I just created those. Now, what kind of HADR I have right now, right? Without anything. So again, I said, start a workload using OSTress. And this is pretty much a copy paste or an idea that I took from here. I will make sure that, I mention those so people don't think that, I wrote it from scratch, right? And OSTress is a tool that, you might, some of you, I don't know your background, I'm sorry, but if you're like me, operational DBA, we use this to generate loads on the server. And I'm not going to talk about all these switches and all that because it's just we don't have time right now. So forget this shortcut for a minute. So what I'm saying here, pretty much we are connecting to a cloud server, gave a database name, just doing a regular select count, right? Nothing fancy here. It's going to ask me for my password. I didn't want to hard code that because not that I'm going to keep these resources, but I just thought I don't want to set up a bad precedence putting password here. So now as you can see, it's doing a select, right? Just getting a count continuously. And now I'm going to do a failover. And this failover, just so you understand, it's not failing over to a different zone or not failing over to a different region. It's just within the the same zone, the extra copies that I get. And it's doing a fail. So this one is going to take a little bit longer time because this is a lower tier. You will notice that it's taking some time. So now it got disconnected, right? My OS test is still running. It says the server is not there. I cannot connect to it. Just keep trying. And you'll see that within few seconds, it will start giving us the result back as it's doing right now. So this is a built-in solution that without doing anything, you get it. I put a note here. This is a general purpose tier. It took a little bit longer. I have the same setup. I'm not going to run it. This is for business critical tier. So this server, this database, as you saw in the portal that I created into different tier for different demo, this one will be a lot faster. So I have the same code. I can bring it here, run it, and then I can do another failover a lot quicker. And I did this many times, same thing. So I'm just going to skip it, but I put the code here for you to test. You can do it in your own time. So active geo replication. Now I'm going to set up between the two servers, one of the database, right? Again, remember, active geo replication has no concept of a set of database. It's part database. So I'm doing it for one of the databases between these two servers. So I'm going to run this command. Let's go to portal and just see what happened. And it says that still not configured, right? It is not. So that confused me a little bit. Maybe I don't know what let me go back. Okay, database already. Okay, I see. So I was testing today and I know what happened. So sorry, I'm just going to go back there and just delete that database. So I should have cleaned up. This is my fault. So I always prefer to run it one more time just before, because Azure change so quickly, commands change, and you never know. So I never take this as a guaranteed that between the two demos is going to work as is. So okay, so this time this should work. Let's close this. Let's go to portal. Okay, as you see here now, it says seeding 0%, right? So from primary, it's in East US 2. It's sending a copy to Central US 2, Central US. And I can choose anything I want, right? I just choose Central US. I have to have a server there. I do not have to have a database. I mean, it's going to copy that database. The error we got because, when I was testing before, I didn't clean it up. I actually said, do not, I stopped the replication, but I just didn't do a good cleanup. So I should have done that. So that's done. It's not totally done. So once it's done, then we're going to do a failover, right? we're going to do a manual failover just to make sure that, just to show you. So it's readable now, right? So it's done. So let's go here. This is still running. Okay, good. So it's done, set up. Now I'm doing a failover. And if we come here, we should see that the roles are going to change, right? You see, now it's pending, it's failing over. And, it should be done within a few seconds. It says failback for next demo, so I don't know if I need that. And the last thing I have to show you is a auto failover group. So, Asif, are you doing good on the time or?
Yeah, I have one question here actually. I just could not stop. Yeah,
Sure.
Because you have showed like how the data is being replicated in different region. So is it going to be only read only, or it's read write? The means like we can query. Yeah.
It will be read only. You can fail over. As soon as you fail over, it's going to take the role of the read write.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So for SQL Server, you have one copy. I know there are some other solutions that in cloud you have multi writes, and then they reconcile. And you have to have your rules, who wins and who loses and all that in case of a conflict. But that's not the case here. Okay. So as you can see, now the central US got the primary role and the East US is a readable, right?
Okay.
Yep.
Sure. Okay, and one more thing, what's the consistency level of the data? Means like how much time it takes to the replicate the data, means like, and how much the data is consistent.
Yeah. So it's always transactionally consistent. That's guaranteed, right? Okay. You cannot. It will never have a. That's the guarantee of the SQL Server in general, right? That doesn't change whether you go to cloud or you with on-premise, right? And I don't want to start talking about the full asset property here, right? Because then we go to a different direction. But you are always guaranteed to, you're transactionally consistent. That's for sure. But how far behind you are, that depends, right? So that's why you probably want to put some monitoring. And you want to get some warning, right? If you fall behind that, and there are metrics they call that you can, I have a totally separate talk that you can constantly send to Log Analytics Workspace, right? Some to query language, and you can constantly query that. And if you say, okay, if this value is greater than X, send me alert, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And I also in my slide there was a cartoon on the left side. If you remember. There is a store proc that you can call and you can bundle it with your transactions. If you really want to make sure that before the caller get the acknowledgement, you want to make sure that it went to the secondary, you can do that too. But you have to be just careful that in that case, your round trip time will be longer.
Okay, sure. Thanks.
You're welcome. So I'm just going to fail back. I think there's some dependency on the, on the next demo. One thing I want to talk about the failover group is once you create a failover group, there's really no database. So you first use the, you create the failover group, and then you can choose, what databases that you want to add to that failover group. The advantage here is I can fail over all of this at the same time together. I do not have to do this one by one. So here, I'm just creating a failover group and I do not have any database. So now if I go to the here, I go to the server, failover group. Now I have a failover group name, right? But look at the database count. I do not have any database here. So let's go back there. Okay, I already created that. So this was there from before. Yeah, I should have cleaned that, but if I delete and do that, it's going to same thing. Now I'm saying I'm adding a database to the failover group that was created above, right? So let's add this database. Failover group, I mean, okay, I thought I failed over. Okay, is2s2 is a primary. So what's the problem now? Yep, there's no database. Okay, I'm just going to add it from here. Save. Right. So once I add this, okay, let me go back here. Just going to delete the failover group totally. And create a failover group. Okay, it's there. Great. Yeah, I'm not sure what I did wrong there, so I definitely didn't do a good cleanup today before this. So once you create a failover group, I want to show you that you automatically get 2 endpoints, and you can take those and you can put those as your connection string for read write and read only traffic. And in case if they flip flop or if they change failover, you really do not have to do anything. So now we have a database, and these are the endpoints that I was talking about, right here. And we can copy this. We can just open this as a SQL Server, SQL login, and connect. So I don't have a server name here, right? I just have the failover group name here, right? And if I now say new query, server name, you get the server name here, right? So in your connection string, there's no concept of server name. You just put the failover group name, and it does work. So let's go back here, and you can do the same. So if someone is interested, you take this, connect to it, look at the server name, you'll see the secondary server name. So you can do a failover if we want to. And as you see here, primary is in East US and secondary is in Central. We can do a failover from here. I initiated one. So if we refresh it, you will see that the roles are going to change. As you can see now, the primary is in Central, secondary is in East US, right? I'm not going to fail back. I just want to show that the read is scale out, and that's the last thing we have. As I said that with certain tier, once you create the server, you automatically get a read-only copy, right? You do not have to do anything. So if you go to at the top here during my setup, I created a Azure SQL Server for read scale demo. And here, as you see, I created this, with a general purpose. No, that's probably, yeah, the business critical one. And I gave it a name as a, for my read scale, right? So I'm just going to show that quickly. So this is the server. Now, here, if I do not mention anything, and I run this, as you see, it says read write, right? But the same connection, if I just point this, and then if we run this, cancel. If you run the same query, you will see that it will tell you that it's a read only. So this one you need to manage your connection strings, and you're not probably going to use this unless you have big read workload, right? So if you're running, if you're trying to use the same database for two kind of workload, and you want to take advantage of it because it's there for you, it's a great way to take advantage because you're not paying anything extra for that. So that's pretty much I think I have for demo, and this is just to clean up. So let me go at the bottom. Yeah, and if you want to check, right, this is another piece of code. If you're not sure, what tier I deployed my Azure SQL database, and is my read, is this database read enabled or no? This is a piece of code that I put so you can check, right? And I also have notes here that it's only premium and business critical is automatically enabled. The other three is not included into the feature, right? So let me go back to the slides for a minute, and I'll be done in a minute or two. So again, as I said, feedback is important to the organizer. So please take a minute or two, and if something you didn't like, something we can improve, let us know. These are some of the resources. All of these are URLs. So if you click on this, it's going to take you to a different documentation page, which has more details. I use this in preparation for this talk, and these things keep changing, I can tell you that. So you need to visit often. Again, I want to come back to my contact. If you need anything, question, comments, please send it my way. Again, I want to thank you for listening to me. Thanks to the organizers. So I'll hang out here because I think this is a break time. So if anyone has question or want to chat about anything, I think this will be a good time.
Thank you so much, sir. Really nice session, and I really like it because the thing really make me more interesting is like the replication, which I used to do in the Cosmos. And I think somehow this is a new feature I am looking in the SQL, Azure SQL, because I was not aware on that. Okay. Hi guys. If you have any questions, so please use the raise hand feature, and you can ask. And if you I mean like yeah, and you can also provide the feedback regarding the session. Yeah, we will be taking a short break after this session, like 15-20 minutes, and then we'll come back again 1:30. So yeah, if you have anything, you can raise your hand and can ask, can unmute you and can ask.
Uh, Taib is Aro here again. I just want to thank you, and it was a very interesting topics you shared with us. And we, as a community, we learn a lot thing about from other speakers. So we have a lot of sessions in morning from different people. So we learned a lot of good things. So this one is another very interesting session which we can learn and do implement in our organization. Thanks a lot for sharing it.
Oh, no problem. It was, it's an honor that you guys invited me. And again, like I said, for other group leaders, just reach out to me if I can help in any way. I have a lot of connections in my personal life for that area, as I said. So it'll be nice. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. So I'll be sharing my screen. So maybe yeah, just a minute. So hey guys, please help to provide feedback because that's important, and for us and for the speaker as well, so they can improve.